All right, fellas, we are ready to go.
Right.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so Zach, man, introduce yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Zachary Daigle. Um, 2011 graduate of Beaumont Central High School out of Beaumont, Texas. 2000 spring 2018 graduate of Southern University in music. Um, March for the Human Jukebox. I played saxophone. Part of Phi Me Alpha, and I was also a part of Collegiate 100 while I was on the yard. Um, and I am the head band director at East Feliciana. I've been there since August of 2017, and I just wrapped up my third year, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
All right, all right, Mr. Frazier.
Right. Well, first of all, hello to everybody. Thank you for having me. Alex Frazier. I'm the director of bands at Memorial High School in Port Arthur, Texas. And I just wrapped up my 10th year, my ninth year here at Memorial. And I'm a 2005 graduate of Memorial High School, and also a 2010 graduate of Southern University. I was in the band, saxophone section leader, former student director, and I'm excited to have this interview going.
All right, all right. Well, Zach, first question, man. Let's start it off with you, man.
All right, what you got?
Band background.
You say band background?
Yeah.
Uh, you just want to run down of the band background, or
Yeah. Just a quick rundown.
okay? Let's see. One more question, just to make sure I get where you're going. Because you were kind of breaking up when you asked it.
Oh,
So
okay.
you just want the uh like what exactly did you
Like,
try to
what
get?
you played in high school, what you played
Okay,
in college. Yeah.
okay, got you. Well, in high school, got to high school in 2007. Originally from Beaumont, Texas, Beaumont Central, played saxophone there. Got to Southern in 2011, and also played saxophone there at Southern. So I did band all the way from middle school, actually. So from sixth grade all the way up until 2015 when I stopped at Southern. So been playing for quite a while. It's enjoyable. It's something I love to do, and it's why I'm a band director.
All right. Mr. Frazier.
Well, I started playing pretty early, man. I was in a good school when I was young, and we actually started like on recorders when I was in the second grade. And then when I got to the third grade, we got our first instrument, but you had to have your own instrument. So that's really how I ended up playing the saxophone. I got an older brother who is about 14, 15 years older than me, and we already had a saxophone. So my parents said, guess what, you're going to learn how to play. I didn't really have a choice in the matter. So I started that, man. I played all through, you know, middle school, obviously, but I did sports. I did football, and I did field events and track all through middle school. When I got to high school, I just decided to go full steam with band at Memorial High School, and that was an awesome experience. A lot of people don't even realize the first day that there was a Memorial High School band, I was there. And that was a great thing to kind of see something start from scratch. Uh, but I was there the first day in 2002, graduated from there in 2005. Uh, I had made up my mind probably somewhere around my sophomore year. I knew I wanted to go to Southern. And honestly, man, it it's kind of funny to talk about now because when I said it, just kind of sounds like I just made my mind if I was going to Southern. That's what I was heading.
Mhm.
But that was a different hurdle. When I was coming out of high school. Now, the band has done well enough where they kind of have at least people kind of know what Port Arthur is and they know something about the band. And but at that time, we were completely unknown. So that was pretty hard, man. I had to audition for Doc. I auditioned for Dr. Greggs in his office while he smoked a Moore in my face. So if you know anything about Doc, he used to smoke those little skinny Moore cigarettes, and he smoked one right in my face in the office with my parents there. But it was the opportunity of a lifetime to get to audition for him, and I did that. I became the section leader in 2008. We had section of the year in 2008. And then after that, I got the opportunity of lifetime from Mr. Jackson to serve as the student director in 2009. And that really gave me opportunity to kind of open my eyes to the full scope of being a band director. You know, it was kind of him pulling that curtain back and kind of letting me see all the things that band directors really have to deal with. And that was an awesome opportunity. And from there, I graduated in music education in 2010. Decided I wanted to come back to Texas and took my time, kind of deciding where I wanted to work, and ended up working 1 year at Lincoln Middle School in Port Arthur. And the following year, I was promoted to Memorial High School, where I served as the assistant band director for about 8 years. And now I'm the director of band. So, it's been quite a journey up to this point.
Okay. So Zach, man, what made you want to become a band director, man? What was that moment for you?
The moment that made me want to become a band director, I would probably have to say my junior year in high school. After I was named the band captain. So really my senior year, I won't say my junior year, but my senior year in high school. Once I was named band captain, because truly I didn't really know much about HBCU bands up until I got into high school. So my first real look at Southern and knowing who they were was in ninth grade. I had seen Southern before on some videotapes my grandfather had recorded and things like that. But other than that, I didn't really know who Southern was until I got there in ninth grade. And my band director, Carl Collins, of course, graduate of Southern, awesome tuba player, just awesome all-around director, really pushed me and really kind of convinced me. He made the job look so entertaining, so fun, and he made band fun for us. So I figured if I could do that just for somebody else and just recreate just a little bit of that, I would enjoy doing what it is that we do as band directors. And I already enjoyed music. I love music from a young age. I remember going in my mom's CD case and taking her Michael Jackson CDs and her Motown CDs and all of that at like 5 years old. So
good picks, man. Good picks.
Just to couple that with, being a band director and enjoying what I do. I think that really set the tone. And with being a band captain, it gave me a chance to see what it is that the band director got a chance to do, from warming up the band to every so often when the band would go outside, I had some reign over the band outside with going through different formations and things like that. So I kind of had an all around aspect, and it just made me love it even more.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, same question. What made you want to become a band director?
I really didn't settle on the idea of becoming a band director until I was probably really going into my junior year of high school. That summer, I got my first job, and I got connected through this program we had at the school, where you kind of told them what you wanted to go into, what kind of career field you wanted to do, and they linked you up with an internship. And so up until that point, when you go to high school, I set my high school courses up to center around technology. I really thought that I was going to go to Southern and study computer science. My only other cousin, the only other family member I have that's a graduate of Southern, which is my oldest cousin, she went there and she graduated in computer science. And she moved to Atlanta. She had these nice cars and a nice house, 2-story house, and she was single. And I was like, man, she getting that money. I really want to do what she does. And so I kind of set my high school courses up to do that. And man, I got that first internship and got to see what the job was like, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I love the people. The people were nice. Everybody was nice to me, but I was sitting at a desk all day long. I wasn't enjoying the work. I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel really engaged in what I was doing. And I remember leaving that summer thinking like, man, I don't really know if I want to do this for 30 plus years,
Right.
Luckily, I had another family member, my oldest cousin, her younger sister, who had also kind of followed in her footsteps, studied computer science, but she had went to Brown. And luckily that year, she actually left her field to become a teacher. And I can remember asking her, like, man, why would you leave, making all that money to come and teach? And she kind of just gave me the advice. She said, if you are not, if you don't really love what you do, you'll never make enough money. And between that and I was blessed and fortunate, man, my mom is a counselor. She's retired now, but she was a high school counselor at the high school I went to. And she fought me for years about going to Southern because my mom is a graduate of Grambling. And once she knew I was serious about it, she gave me two tidbits of advice that were really stuck with me. And I still kind of tell the kids to this day. One thing she said was that, college is hard enough without you being somewhere that you want to be. So, if you feel like you are going to do the work at Southern, go to Southern. That was the first bit of advice. And then the next bit of advice she gave me was she said, think of something that you would do every day if nobody paid you. What career could you see yourself doing if you had to go every single day and nobody ever paid you and you could still be happy doing it? And by that point, I said, well, that's an easy answer for me. I could sit in the band hall all day. I could rehearse the band all day. I could work with sections all day. I could clean up parts all day and never get tired. I could be on the field all day and run drill work and never get tired. So I knew at that point I was in love with the work of being a band director. Even more so than the acclaim or being noticed. I was really in love with the behind the scenes work. So I knew it was something for me, and that's what made me really want to pursue.
Okay. So Zach, man, what obstacles did you have to face when you first became a band director?
First becoming a band director, I think everything was probably thrown at me at once. First becoming a band director in 2017. I think when I first got the job, I was still in school. I was still a student at Southern. So that was one strike that was up against me. And also when I got there, of course, I didn't really know anybody because I'm not, from the area. Me and Alex are pretty much from up the street, by each other. And that's where I currently am now. But when I got there, I knew a couple people, that probably marched in Southern's band that was there to help me. I had a fraternity brother who worked, for the school board that was there to help me. But for the most part, I really just had to hit the ground running. We didn't have any instruments. We had some drums. Some of the drums we might have to piece together a little bit, but we didn't have any instruments.
It's crazy.
The band wasn't really wasn't that big. When I got there, I had about 9 kids when I first got there.
Wow.
That was just people who were playing wind instruments. That wasn't the percussion. I think altogether we probably had about 14, 15 kids when you add the percussion. But me and my assistant that I picked to help me at the time, who's also from Beaumont, Kevonte Frazier, we came in there and we had to hit the ground running. We had to learn budgeting on the fly, figure out how much money we had in the account, see how we was gonna get some instruments, see how we were gonna put together a recruiting plan, to get these kids back interested in the band. Because there was plenty of kids at the school that just was in the band and got out after a while. So we had to do that, as well as just trying to dealing with the new community, them hearing that there's a new band director. Oh, you bringing the band back. We want to see this and we want to see that. So it's just a matter of putting everything together to make the best possible product that you could. Funding in different areas is different. You could very well be low funded in the area that Alex is in, but you can still have a little bit more money. All the money that we had was pretty much done, through fundraising or, fees or whatever it may be. And then, I know that scheduling is also a problem elsewhere too. That was a big thing because I think for the first year at least, everything that we taught the kids, we pretty much taught them after school. Because when I got there, school had already started, so you couldn't really change the kids' schedule. So we really put a band together 3 hours pretty much every day after school for at least the first year. Just, do the scheduling. But all of that, It just made me a better person. It was able to help me work around schedules and still be able to get the tasks done, you know. But that was some of the main issues. And we had a couple, facility issues here and there. Air might be out one day, or it's too cold in there one day, just regular little stuff that you may have an issue with here and there. But for the most part, we got it together and we handled business regardless of the issues that was there. We were able to put out a product for that upcoming homecoming game.
Okay, so like, did you have to, pull kids out of classes, or if you see them in the hallway, you have to, try to recruit them for the band? Did you have to face that too?
Oh yeah, I was always in the cafeteria. So at the high school, in the cafeteria, it's split. It's a big building. Jackson Complex is split. One side is the high school, the other side is the elementary school. So I was always in the cafeteria. The little kids was always asking me about joining. Elementary kids was asking me about joining the band. I was in there talking to my band kids, some of their friends. I sit down at the lunch table with them and be like, "Yeah, so why don't you want to be in the band? What you doing when you go home? Nothing. You finna go to sleep? You finna play the game? Your friend in the band, you come join her at practice. We gonna have fun. We gonna go some places. We got this, and this set up. Whatever you gotta do to get them. So I did that between there and middle school. Middle school, I think was really the ones that were interested. They would come up to me and they would just see me standing there. I could have just got there first thing in the morning. I'm gonna be in the band. All right, well, what's your name? What you want to play? I'm taking down their names and stuff when they on the way to class. I say, all right, look, if you late, come get a pass because I was talking to you. Stuff like that. You just gotta figure out ways to make the kids interested and just really just give them to gravitate towards you and what you got going on.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, what obstacles did you have to face?
Oh man, a ton. A ton. I said earlier, my first year I was teaching middle school, and of course, coming out of college, my goal really was to be at a high school, and so I was kind of finding myself a little bit disappointed. Now this ended up being a blessing in disguise for me. I had interviewed I had done like a teacher workshop. And Southern had one the spring that I got ready to graduate. So I done a teacher workshop there, and I had some offers. I had offers maybe about 4 or 5 in Texas, maybe about 4 in Louisiana, and I even had like an offer as far out as Nebraska. I had interviewed with a school district in Nebraska, because they had come to that teacher workshop. But I kind of knew I wanted to go back to Texas. I knew I wanted to go back towards home. And so when I got ready to look for a job, there were really no high school positions, available at that time. And I interviewed, a lot of people don't know this, I interviewed at Central. The legendary Carl Collins, man, he called me up coming out of college, and he was, yeah, man, I want you up here, and I'm hearing good things about you, and Mr. Jackson tell me good things. I want you up here. So, I had my mind set on going to Central. I'm going to Central. It's a Southernite up there. We in the same system. He gonna understand what I want to do, and I'm gonna understand what he want to do. And so that was really my goal. I interviewed with Miss Lambert at the time. She was the principal. Interview went really well. And then I found out later that the 2 of the school board members, they had blocked the vote. They had to have a unanimous vote for them to hire me, and they blocked the vote. And so I ended up taking this job at Memorial, and I don't want to make it sound like it was just a second choice that I really didn't want. But I knew I wanted to be in the high school level, and all Memorial had at that time, or all Port Arthur had at that time, was their middle school position. And so I took the job, and it was rough, man. Like I had, we were just moving into not a brand new building, but a newly renovated school. And so the band hall had not been renovated yet. Band hall actually was full of mold at the time. We were not able to use those facilities. So we were in the middle of a school building. Now, just picture was supposed to be your band hall, and you got a math class on one side and an English class on the, so you can't play no instrument.
Right.
We didn't have the right equipment for probably like the first 12 weeks of school. We had desks in the classroom. We didn't have, the chairs and stands that we needed. and all of the instruments had not been moved over from the old campus to the new one yet. So I pretty much spent like the first 2.5 months of school trying to teach them how to do sight reading, teaching them how to count rhythms. Well, because of that, that ended up being something I had to do at the time, but it actually worked out. That's kind of how I devised my whole teaching method, of how I like to teach rhythms. And I was kind of forced to do it that way. I went through that year. It was a great year because it made me learn how to do a lot of stuff I didn't know how to do at that time. Move up to Memorial, and I said, man, it's about to be a great year. I'm finally on the high school level. I can, write my arrangements, pass them out. And man, I had some good times at Memorial that first year, but I had some rough times. I'll tell you anybody, my second year teaching, which was my first year at Memorial, was the roughest year I ever had teaching. I mean, hands down, and it's not even close. And a big part of that was we had a lot of kids that just did not have a concept of what a culture of excellence was at that time. And that was frustrating for me. You got to remember, I'm still, pretty much straight out of Southern. I'm used to a certain
standard, right.
Right. I'm used to this standard of you come into practice and it's ultra competitive, and it's a lot of accountability, and this just wasn't going on at Memorial at that time. You would ask the kid like, hey, we're going outside, take that backpack off. Why I gotta take my backpack off? It was like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it was all the time, and I just had pushback on every single thing. And it got to a point, man, where I just kind of made up my mind, like, the kid's not gonna push me out. If I'm staying, if they roll out, then they roll out. But it's got to be a certain way. And so, the staff at that time, we got together and we really came up with a plan to try to, build this foundation, try to build some kind of foundation of excellence. And it took a while. It took maybe about 2 to 3 years to really do it. And we had to weed some people out. We had to, I always tell kids, everybody's not going to make it to the mountaintop with you. And it's just a matter of, do you want to go or do you not want to go? Because we going, and so we kind of adopted that mentality of either you with us, or and if it's not for you, it's just not for you. If band is just not for you, that's okay. But what we're trying to do, we need this kind of commitment. And it was rough because we didn't have that. Like Zach said, my schedule was a mess the first year that I was in Memorial, probably the first 2 years. And it took time to really kind of cultivate a relationship with counselors and try, hey, I really need these kids in this class period. I really need to see these kids at this part of the day. And that took a while. I had that first year, you had kids who had been playing, who were in the 10th grade, who had already been playing 4 or 5 years already at that point, or 4 years at that point, with kids who were beginners. And so, that's a nightmare scenario, because you either going too fast for the beginners or you're going way too slow for the kids that know what they're doing. So once we were able to get past that, it worked out. But that time period really kind of taught me to be resourceful, to be patient, definitely, and to kind of you got to work your plan. You got to work your plan, and you got to constantly reassess and figure out what's working, what's not working, and how you can try and change that. So as hard as it was, I'm still grateful for that experience.
Okay. So Zach, let's switch it back to you, man. What's the best piece of advice you've gotten since becoming the band director?
Best piece of advice. I think I'm gonna go with know when to hold and when to fold. You just gotta know when to do certain things and when not to do certain things. Mr. J used to tell us that all the time in the band. And even when I was talking to him the first, first few months of me taking the job, he was just reminding me, to be humble, be open, call me if you need anything, use your resources. And to just make sure that if you're gonna do anything, know the right time to do it. Don't overwork yourself. Don't try to go out and do everything at one time. Success not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
So it takes time to get into whatever it is that you have planned, the goals that you have planned. And you want to be on the right side of the playing field. The last thing you want to do is to do something that you think was in the realm of you being able to do, and the administration not like it, and now you're out of a job. So just knowing like I think Alex has said before, you got different politics in different areas. So it's just a matter of knowing when to kind of, grab on this one or when to let go of this, and just how to make things work, make things flow in your favor that'll work for you, the administration, the community, and the kids as a whole, because all of that plays a part in it, whether you believe it or not. It most definitely plays a part. So just knowing when and when not to do things and just using common sense.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, same question. What's the best piece of advice you received?
I mean, I think probably one of the best pieces of advice I could think of getting is to, don't miss the forest, looking at the trees. In other words, understand how to look at the full picture and the full scope. And to be professional, in being a band director. I got really good advice from Mr. J and Mr. Knighton coming out of school, how to really just carry myself as a professional, and when I say don't miss the forest looking for the trees, I had to learn there are certain things that we want to do as band directors, but there are other parts of our job, that are just as relevant or if not more relevant to what we have to do for that program to be successful, or for people to want to, employ us, right? So that was some good advice that I had got. Another good piece of advice I got was, to hold myself accountable, for my product, and to really be willing to constantly reassess how a thing is going, what works, what doesn't work. And that's one of the things I always tell people is the hardest person to be real with is yourself.
That's a
and
fact.
we find that a lot of times, not just as band directors, but in all kind of walks of life, we see people say, well, I'm not having the success I want to have because this person not helping me, or this person not doing it for me, or this person's supposed to give me this, and then, and it kind of comes to a point where you have to look and say, what can I do that I'm not doing yet? Or what can I do better? What don't I do well? And so those were definitely some big tidbits of advice that I got. I think that helped me forward a lot.
Okay. Zach, switching it back to you, man. Was there ever any time where you had any frustration to the point to where you just want to say, man, maybe this is not for me. Maybe, I should try something else. Like, did it ever get to that level for you?
Like maybe once or twice. I think it happened like once or twice. It's funny that you asked that, because I had a certain moment. I think it was my second year, and we were getting ready for week one. And I just remember thinking, a couple of the kids hadn't paid their band fee yet. We didn't necessarily have all the money we needed for their shirts and their shorts for first game. Something went wrong with the travel request. And I think it was like Wednesday. It was Wednesday. The game was on Friday. And I didn't know if we were going to have shirts and stuff for the game on Friday or transportation.
Oh, wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, and the band had did something. And my assistant was on the podium. I just remember walking out the band room and the football field where we practiced. We were at the middle school that day. Football field where we practiced was right there. And I remember just standing out there in the middle of the football field for about 15 minutes, just thinking like, all right, got to make something shake by Friday.
Right.
How can we get it done? Is it, I know it's possible to get done. Of course, we had everything straight for Friday, but it was just one of those moments where it's just like, okay, the kids did something that was aggravating. It was like they weren't learning, or they wasn't grasping the concept. And then I just got the phone call that, well, something happened with the travel request right now. It was we was either gonna have one bus or no bus at all.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, it was a lot going on at one time. I just had to calm down, come to myself, and be like, it's gonna be all right. I hear, you can hear Dr. Greg say that in your head all the time. He used to say it when I would hear him, And of course, everybody else who tells Doc stories can hear Dr. Greg say that. And I walked back in the band room and I thought about it, and I ran practice as usual. But it's been at least that time and maybe another time where I was just really like, okay, I don't, how much longer am I going to be able to do this was the question that I would ask myself. What are the pros and cons of, what I'm doing now? Because honestly, if it's something you love, it's not like work to you. So, I loved what I was doing, regardless of how hard it was. I was like, in order to get the results that I wanted, I knew I had to push through whatever it was that was in front of me. Right. So, it just comes times, I think, once so much can pile up on your plate, it'll kind of make you start to rethink, okay, are you sure you positive that this is what you want to do? You really got to sit down and kind of like Alex said, take accountability for yourself and self-reflect and look over some things just to make sure, that you're doing exactly what you want to do and not just because, somebody made it look good on the outside and they band sounds good, it looks good, and you want to emulate that. But there's a whole lot more that comes with dealing with band outside of just the field shows that we do, the music that we play, any chance dance routines. All of that is extra. It's a part of the process, but that's the icing on the cake. That's the finished product. We practice for 20 hours a week just to do the show one time.
Right.
And maybe play a few songs that week, maybe once or twice. So it's just I've had my moments. Whether it's been between whether it's just been the students not understanding, and more so not the students, but more so you get into it with administration, and then the students may add to that. But for the most part, I've had my days where I was just to the top of it, but I got myself together. I pulled it together because I knew that this is what I wanted to do. Even when I was in school, I thought of changing my major at one point. Because at one point, Southern's, music degree wasn't all the way together. So I thought, okay, well, what else could I do? I couldn't find anything else outside of music that I knew that I wanted to do. That if I graduated and had to get a job, that this is the job that I would want. So I look at that the same way when I'm at work. Okay, if I leave this job and I go somewhere else, or I'm doing something else, is it something that I would really want to do? And it just brings me back to where I can sit back and be like, it's really not that bad. Or you hear somebody else talk about what they deal with, and it may be worse than what you're going through. And you think about it, it's not as bad as you think it is. Somebody else may have something totally different going on that may seem worse than yours, but they're still progressing. So it's just a matter of really just kind of bringing yourself back. But I've had my moments.
Okay, Mr. Frazier, same question. Any moments where you had doubt and was doubting yourself and your frustration level was up to here?
Man, how much time you got? Like I said, definitely that after that first year at Memorial, I really had to contemplate, whether or not I was going to come back. And it was just because that year was so rough. But, things got, progressively, smoother after that first year. And, within maybe 2 or 3 years, things were really kind of to a point where I want to just say it was smooth sailing, like we didn't have any problems, but that standard kind of was set. The discipline was really where we wanted to be, and the accountability was where we wanted to be. So that really wasn't a problem so much, really after the second year. But I probably dealt with other things that I can think of going back. I always say there was a moment where I really thought about leaving Memorial. But when I really think back on it now, it was more of an immaturity thing. I had to mature past some stuff. And so, I kind of went through this moment of maybe, and this was maybe like around probably 2014, 15 or so like that, where I really just felt like the work I was doing was just not being appreciated. And I was getting into this feeling of feeling like I was working my ass off. I was busting my tail all day, and I was writing these songs. I was doing these drills. I was getting on the mic for the and I kind of just felt like none of that outside of the band itself was really being appreciated. And I always kind of call it like the plight of being an assistant band director when you're in high school. It's kind of like, oh, well, this is Mr. So and so in his team, right? And I got to a point where I think my ego was getting the best of me, and this is just for myself. I think my ego was probably getting the best of me, and I was saying like, I'm really tired of this. I'm not getting the kind of recognition I feel like I deserve. And what I remember is I had gotten to a point where I was actually looking up openings. I was looking up job openings, and I just kind of had this attitude like, I'm gonna show everybody, I'm gonna go get my own band, and then everybody gonna see what I do, And then I had to realize, nobody was doing me anything. The other staff members, pretty much, I had free license to do what I wanted to do with the band, so nobody was stifling me. Nobody was, like they say, trying to block my shine. It wasn't anything like that, but it was just the nature of the job, and I had to learn that was just the nature of the job. Sometimes when you are in a assistant position, sometimes people are not gonna, at first look, recognize what it is you do or what you bring to the table. But at that time, I was really kind of stuck in that mindset. But what I remember is I had a student, two students actually, and they're both at Southern now, two clarinet players, and obviously nobody knew I was dealing with this internal struggle. But I remember these two young ladies both wrote me letters at the end of the year, like thank you letters. And one of them said, thank you, Mr. Frazier. I just want to tell you I appreciate everything that you do, and you really took some time to work with me this year. And, I don't think I would have ever stayed in band if it was for you. And now I'm looking at going to college, and I want to go to Southern. And that meant a lot. And I kind of took that as God kind of telling me, hey man, slow your roll, calm down, and I really thought about it, and I said, well, man, the band staff, nobody is trying to block what I'm trying to do, or nobody's trying to, silence me or anything like that. And I think really the good thing that came out of that was I got to a point where I stopped worrying about, I guess you could say like outside praise. I stopped worrying about that. And I kind of got out of that, and it was like, I'm gonna just put my head down and I'm gonna do my work, And then I kind of just got into a place where I just found the most joy in what I was doing with the band. I really wasn't worried about what anybody was saying outside of that, or if anybody was saying, man, Frazier doing it. I really just wasn't worried about it. And that ended up being a godsend, man, because it kind of released me from that worry about what other people thought, that kind of really released me from that. What is the band community saying about me? Do people know who I am? But, I got away from really caring about that. And I kind of just really learned, man, when you put your head down and you work, your results will speak for its own, in due time.
Right.
And sure enough, within maybe like a year from that, then I did start hearing my name. Well, who did this song? Well, oh, Alex Frazier did that song. Oh man, that song good. Oh, who did this drill? Man, that drill good. Who did that song? Alex Frazier did. Okay, and then what I realized, man, once that started happening, I really didn't even care. Yeah. That's the funny thing, man. Once I started kind of getting recognized for stuff, it was kind of like, okay, that's cool. I appreciate it, but it wasn't something like that. I felt like by that point, it really didn't validate me at all. So I would say if there were ever a point that I really just kind of felt like I was frustrated to that point, it really had to do more with me needing to mature as a band director and as a professional, more than it had anything to do with the job. The job always got problems, and I always tell people, whatever level that you're teaching at, every level got its own devils. And sometimes lower levels, that might be finances, that might be, support. A lot of time, I think people see even bigger schools that might have more money and just figure, well, they got it better. And I guarantee they got their own devils. Because that money comes with certain expectations that if you don't meet, they're very quick to let you go sometimes, And so, I don't worry so much about that now. It is what it is. Those are parts of the job. But that was definitely one point in my life, or one point in my career, that I was definitely finding some major frustration.
Okay. Zach, man, switching it back to you, man. What's that one school that your band really gets excited to play again? Like, what's that one school that really gets y'all hyped?
Ooh, one school for my kids is Northeast. For my kids is Northeast, and you seen that. They will
Right.
talk about that all season. You know, I got my schools that I like. You know,
Mhm.
not to say that I don't like, Northeast.
Mhm.
Um, but the school that gets my kids up and going is most definitely Northeast. Matter of fact, this year when we performed, um, I had my kids perform to our side and come off on our side just for safety precautions because it's
Right.
a big game. They call it the Country Classic. You know, I didn't want anything, and I sat down with the principal before the week of that game. I said, "Look, we're gonna perform to our side. I don't want any, thing with any students coming off on the opposite side of the field, any
Mhm.
students terrorizing them, anything like that." She's like, "Okay, cool, that's fine."
Mhm.
But that's the school for them. You talk about Country Classic for them, that's like, they little mini Bayou Classic or uh if I had to compare it to a high school football game, it was like the Central and Ozan game that they had in Beaumont. That was the
Mhm.
only two black schools at the time. So, I think that they work all the way up to that. When you ask the kids for ideas, they'll give you ideas, but it's nothing like asking for ideas for a game that they know that they're ready to play for, that they're ready
Mhm.
to get up for. I'm talking about I've asked for song ideas and all types of things. I get some here and there. Come Northeast week, I got a whole 3, 4, 1 page list of songs that I've been asking for,
Mhm.
throughout the season. But that one, yeah, especially when Todd was still there, oh, they really loved it. Boy,
Yeah.
they really loved it because he was at Eastville before he went
Right.
to Northeast. So that
Mhm.
was really a big game for the kids who was there um, when he was still there. So you wanna get my kids up and running, I'd say Northeast. Next after that, I'd probably say St. Helena.
Okay.
St. Helena be next in the running.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, on you. What's that one school that really gets your band excited?
Man, that's like a pin down one school. I would say probably definitely early in my career was definitely like Central. That was a game, we never had a issue getting the kids to get up for. Now it's a couple of bands, man, that the kids really love going up against. Obviously, Beaumont United now, they've consolidated Central and Ozan into one school, and that's a fun matchup. It's kind of crosstown rivals. I think Beaumont Port Arthur like 15 minutes away from each other. So, uh, and then the band director, it's fun. Is the band director is my good friend Mark Martin. Which again, probably a lot of people don't know, man. Me and Mark grew up together. We were in the same bands in middle school and high school. We both played saxophone, switched to French horn in high school. I just ended up playing saxophone in college, and he stayed with French horn in college. And so it's definitely some rivalry there. Still one of my good friends, man. We talk all the time, but it's pure war on that week. And so that's always fun. It's a lot of trash talking that goes on. We've had some also, man, some really fun battles like with Scotlandville and like Northside High is always a fun one to compete against, and it's a lot of good bands, man, that we've been able to see over the years. And so it's hard for me to just pin down one, but if I just had to pin down one right now, definitely I think that proximity that we have to Beaumont United right now is something that the kids like really always look forward to.
Okay. So Zach, man, what's that one exciting moment for you? Like that one moment where you're excited, since you became a band director.
I probably have to say, was it my first year? Was it first? Either my first year or my second year. Probably my second year. Um, Getting the kids ready for homecoming. Um, First year, of course, we displayed the band at homecoming with the alumni and things like that. But the second year, we had the alumni playing the stands, but they weren't on the field with the kids. So it was all up to the kids then. Uh, when we first brought them out, we didn't do a field show or anything. We just had them learn a couple songs so that they could play for the game. But the second year homecoming, we were out there getting it every day. And I think the hardest part about that was that we had some weather challenges. You know, we wanted to teach the show the week before, and I think kids had an event, so we were missing a lot of people. So we just worked on music. And then Monday, Tuesday, and a part of Wednesday, it rained. Show Friday, you know, so we really had to revamp what we were going to do, because we were most definitely going to do a different show from what we ended up doing. But, you know, we just taught the music, made sure the music was cut, and we worked them on that show for them next 2 days. It even started raining when we were outside. We were getting ready to leave, to go back inside. Practice was supposed to be over at, I don't remember what time, but practice was supposed to be over. It was a little long because it was the day before the game. And I just remember thinking to myself, we could just go do the show one more time. Just make sure, safety precautions. They did it. I told them, all right, back to the sideline. Started pouring down raining. And, you know, just like any other band director that I've been under, whether it be Carl Collins or Mr. J or whomever, you know, you're not going nowhere till you get it right. So you might as well get it right now, because you're not going nowhere. And now you're not on my time, you're on your time. I didn't use all my time. I'm ready to go home. So I just need you to do this right for me one more time, and we can go home. Of course, since it started pouring down raining, well, as soon as it started pouring, I didn't keep them out there too long. I just told them, we did the show before it rained. They did it. Had them line back up on the sideline like they was gonna do it again. They was tired. And we was like, don't you move, don't say nothing, don't move, or we'll do it again in the pouring rain. In my head, I knew we wasn't gonna do that show again. It was pouring down raining, and the parents was outside. I knew we wasn't gonna do that show again. I sent them to the band room, and the only thing I could hope was that, you know, the next day, maybe we could get a run through in before the football team get on the field. If not, they got to go out there and do it. And sure enough, for halftime, me and my assistant looked at each other. I was like, all right, you got your script. You've been practicing this script all week. You got on the mic. I gave the downbeat, and that was it after that. And when they got off the field, they had perfectly executed the show. I'm talking about just perfect. We didn't have no issues with the show. It probably was like the highlight of my career so far over these 3 years, was them doing that, because we had really been working on it. And man, I tell you, the last few times they messed some stuff up that we had been working on for, you know, a while. And so I was like, I don't know. But when they did it, the principal almost tackled us because she was so happy that they did it. But you know, we had our own little celebration. But I think that was pretty much one of the highlights for me, one of my kids, just in my short time of being a band director.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, same question. What was your most exciting moment as a band director?
Man, I have a lot that come to mind. We've been blessed. We didn't have everything at this point now. From that, we have like two. The city has like did declarations for 2 days of commemoration of the band. And I think 2018 we got keys to the city. But two moments that really stick out in my mind. On the marching band side, you know, now we're at, as of like today, we're at 11 straight Battle of the Band. We won 11 straight. So that's going back into November 2015. So 2015, we started the streak, you know, it was just one at that point. But 2016, man, we came in and we had a good band in 15, and we had a really strong group of freshmen come in 16, and we had this group of seniors that had matured, and they were very, very strong. And so we were excited. So we said, man, we got this band. We think they got a lot of potential, so we're gonna throw them in the fire. So we decided to do 4 Battle of the Band. And they were big Battle of the Bands. We decided to go to the Wave Fest. That was at Memorial Stadium, and this was 2016. And then we did Northwest had a Battle of the Bands in Opelousas. And Alcorn State did this big Battle of the Bands at Lorman at their stadium. And then the last one was this Battle of the Bands at Royal High School in Brookshire, Texas. So, man, we had just a really good run, man, just this really strong run. And we were able to get first place reigning champion in these first 3 events. And so we get up to the last one, and by this point it's November, you know, and you know, any band directors know what I mean when I say when you get to November, you start to get that lull. You know, you starting to run on fumes, kids running on fumes. And at this point, like if the way our districts are set up in our area, for us to go to an away game, those are all like 2-hour trips. So, you know, we go to every single football game. So at that point, we traveled a lot through that season, and between all the football games and Battle of the Bands and other little events that you do, you know, we were burnt out, and we were trying to get them motivated to really push for this last event to try and finish it out strong. Well, we had 2 students, and I hope they don't mind me telling this story, but they were brother and sister, and their dad was battling cancer at the time. And fortunately, he since passed. Yeah, fortunately, he since passed. But he was battling cancer, and they had been struggling with this, man, the entire football season. I can remember that. And we were coming in that Saturday morning, the day of our last competition of that fall, and they were, you know, missing. They were missing, you know, and we getting ready to run through the show. We asking kids, have you heard from them? They come and say, hey, their dad had a crisis last night. They had to rush to the hospital. We don't really know what's going on. So, of course, we understood, you know, family always comes first. And so we were trying to figure out a plan of we were going to use reserves or not use reserves. Well, we go through the show once, and we were going to go through it that second time, and they show up. And I remember us kind of pulling them to the side like, hey, what are y'all doing here? Y'all need to go home, you know. Y'all don't have to be here for this. And I'll never forget the older brother, who is very soft-spoken, very soft-spoken, but one of the best musicians I've ever gotten a chance to teach. He's actually in the band at Southern now. He said, no, this is important to us. And, you know, we made a commitment. We made a commitment to the band, and we don't want to let anybody down. And, you know, it kind of just choked me up. I can just remember getting this knot in my throat. I wanted to say something. I couldn't really say anything. And we said, really, you know, you really don't have to do it. So, no, we want to. And just to see the band kind of come around them that day was a huge thing. You know, we always preach about the band being a family and everything like that. And I've seen it on display a couple of times, but probably no other time that was that strong. You know, they really, you know, huddled around them and lifted them up. And that night we went to that competition, man, and it was probably the best they had ever done that show. I mean, it was like they were on just a different frequency that night, you know. And so that was a very, very, you know, visceral moment that sticks in my head. The second one I would say, on the other side of that band coin with concert band, man, we had worked really hard trying to build up the concert band. That first year I was there in 2011, we could barely get a concert band together. And it took 2 years before we got to a point where we felt like we were comfortable enough to even try to go to competition. And the goal was to make a 3. I remember that was the first year. The goal was to make it like, man, we can make a 3. You know, that's a good start. We can go from there. So, and that's what happened. We made a 3. We did a little bit better the next year. And so by the time we got to spring 17, the goal was to make a 1. And this was a big deal because Memorial had never made one. We'd never done it in the history of the school. And man, they were able to pull it off. They got straight 1s on stage and in sight reading. And it was a very emotional moment. And it was really an emotional moment for me because you got to remember, I went to Memorial. Right. And so I was there in the band those early years when, you know, we weren't doing too hot at these competitions and people were talking about it. And that kind of stuff just kind of really flooded back to me like, man, they used to talk about us in one way now they're going to have to talk about us in a different way. And so that was a very, very, you know, special moment for me. It still is a special memory for me. And I think the whole band was like in front of the auditorium crying. You know, I'm up there trying to hide my face. I'm trying to hold a trophy in front of my face and stuff like that. The other staff members crying. So it was funny, man. One of the judges, not the judges, but one of the office workers, little old white lady, she came out, she was crying. And she, I'm just so proud of y'all. So it was a very, very special moment. So those 2 moments, probably more than any 2, you know, really take precedence in my mind.
Okay. Staying with you, Mr. Frazier, we have a question. Someone wanted to know about the Victory Lap song. Did you write that? And what made you want to write that for your band?
I did write Victory Lap. Somebody had sent me the song over the summer, and what happens a lot with the kids that send me songs, and I might listen to them once and say, "Oh man, that's gonna hit." So I got a Spotify list, and this Spotify list it's a ridiculous. Now it's like 300 or 400 songs.
Wow.
So if I hear something I like, I kind of just throw it on my Spotify list and kind of going about my business. And so I think when they first sent it to me, I wasn't really worried about writing, but I don't know if I heard somebody else play it, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was like Victor Man. I was like, "Oh, that's on my list." So I went and listened to it again, and I heard some stuff I liked in it, and so I decided to write it. And I always try to, I always kind of like to play with chords. When I do rap songs, I always like to play with the chords at the end. And so I'll kind of take the chords that's there, and then I'll revoice them normally at the end of the song, just kind of give it a different feel. All right, so it's just kind of my thing. But I had a fun time doing it. The kids liked it. But yeah, it's I can't lie and say it was like a grand idea with Victory Lap. It was just a song I liked. I wrote it, and the kids just executed.
Okay. So Zach, back to you, man. Now this is a question for both of you guys. What are the ways do you all try to build a band but through alumni and your band supporters?
Okay. I think what I was doing, what I'm still currently doing at Eastvale, we have a couple, notable alumni. Danny Johnson, who graduated from Southern, who's part of the Washington Redskins. I found out once I got hired on at Eastvale that he graduated from there. So one thing I was talking with him after the homecoming parade to try to set something up. I know he normally does something for the kids at the beginning of the year. Say, well, let's set something up where we could bring the band out, we could play, get some donations and get some proceeds to go to the band. That would be one. And then also as well, just different the alumni pose different food fundraisers, car washes, and different things like that. And they've even thought about doing like an alumni band kind of battle, Clinton Jackson type thing, to raise some money.
Great idea.
And we've had several ideas that we've just laid out there on the table outside of our normal candy fundraisers and things like that. So the alumni have some good ideas. The community is open to different ideas, but that's just a few of the ones that we had in the works so that we've done before.
Okay, Mr. Frazier, what are some of the ways that you all build a band budget through alumni and your band supporters?
I would say I probably have a little bit of a different approach. You got to understand, Port Arthur is a very small city, so we don't really have. We got great alumni, but probably not anybody we could just say, "Hey, can you come write me a $2,000 check?" What I always try and get from alumni is to get what they will, give what they feel like they can give. But more than anything, what I always try and tell alumni to do is to talk to the other people in the community, be an advocate for the band program. That can go a much longer way than even, what their monetary contribution might be. So for instance, if we're fortunate, man, we've had a lot of alumni to go and play at the collegiate level. And so they have ties with these other bands, that they can put you in contact with. But more so because they're educated folks, they can come back home and speak on the behalf of the band. And sometimes as a band director, there's some stuff you just can't say. It's some battles that if the fight is coming from you, it's going to be an issue. But if it's coming from somebody else, right, maybe that's not going to be quite an issue with your employment, but that message will still be served. And so I would say probably more than anything else with alumni, when it comes to funding, it's more about kind of getting them to get on the front lines of what the needs of the band are. And we've been fortunate to have some great alumni. We got alumni from obviously Southern, Texas Southern, Prairie View, Florida A&M. We've got some great alumnus And really, one of the other things I like to have the alumni do sometimes is come in and sit with the band. I'm really particular about that. I'm not one to just kind of let anybody come in the band hall. And that's because I don't like the kids to pick up what I call isms. You know, somebody coming in, they telling them one thing that's aside from what I would say. I don't like that. But, you know, the guys that I feel comfortable with, you know, it's huge for me if they could come in and just model for them. They just sit next to them and play with them for a day, and let that kid kind of hear, you know, oh, this is what they sound like. Oh, that's what that tone is supposed to sound like. Oh, that's a really much darker tone than I have. That's a big deal for me. But with the financials, you know, I try not to ask people directly for money, but if they can kind of run interference for me with the people who got the money, then that's all the better. That's all the better.
Okay, so Mr. Frazier, sticking with you, man. Someone has a question. They say, I'm trying to be messy, but for Mr. Frazier, who is the better band director, you or Mr. Martin?
Me. Well, come on. No, Mr. Martin is my great friend, man. Look, obviously, I'm always going to be very confident in my abilities. I really don't get into that, man. That's not my thing. My thing is when I see band directors that look like me, I want us all to be successful. And I can say that from the bottom of my heart. Mark Martin is a guy that I grew up with. And I mean that. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He could tell you we had backyard band battles with another guy named Darius Spears, all growing up from through high school, you know. So I wish him nothing but success, and then anything I could be to do to be of help to him in his band program, I'd definitely do.
Okay. So Zach, switching back to you, man. What are you looking for in a band student?
Ooh, in a band student. Basically just somebody who's dedicated, they're open to learn. And they are you want to be teachable, also open to learn and dedicated, really, because this takes up more time than what you would think it would normally take. So you just gotta have everything strapped on, be ready to go, and be ready to roll with the punches. We can teach you skills, we can teach you all the rhythms and everything, but you gotta be willing, you gotta be willing to buckle down and really put in the work to get what you want, because people, some of the kids are coming to me like, hey, Miss D, can we play this? Can we play that? Well, that's cool. But you got to be willing to sit down and go over these rhythms we went over yesterday to make sure, and go over these scales to make sure that you can play this song. Because we went over the scale that the song is in. So now you got to put what you learned from what we went over with this, I don't put any restrictions on kids because we got, like Alex said earlier, you teach kids at different levels. Some kids already know how to play, and some kids are playing for the first time. So you really just got to be, I just like my kids to be open to learn, dedicated, and, teachable, and being able to, face correction if needed, and things of that nature. Nothing too big, too broad, or anything like that. Just real simple stuff to get the job done.
Uh-oh, did he freeze?
I think so.
I think he might have froze.
Uh-oh. I think we still on.
Okay, all right.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What was your question?
Yeah, the question now is, what are you looking for in a band student?
Okay, the biggest thing I'm looking for in a band student is honestly commitment. And I'm looking for a student that is willing to be more focused about the group as a whole than they are about themselves. And we always call it weism versus meism. And that was a practice that we started a year ago. And then even when I talk about the band, you may notice I very rarely say the word I when I'm talking in terms of the band or even the band staff. I never just say me, it's always we. We did this, we decided to do that, we made this decision. And that was after listening to, one of my applied instructors at Southern, Mr. Norvin Daniels. He presented that as a clinic to some kids one summer at a high school, at the high school band camp. And that stuck with me. And I said, that's really powerful to me. We-ism versus me-ism. And so that's really what I'm really trying to push upon my students, to make everything about the group. I think when you do that, when it's more about how am I serving the group rather than how is the group serving me or how am I serving myself, then the kids are going to do what's necessary to serve the group. So if they are not the best players, they're going to try to improve, because they know for the group to be successful, their link of the chain has to be also strong. I feel really strongly that students don't have a mindset of putting themselves first. And of course, when students first come in, that's something they have to kind of assimilate to. That's not people's, first mindset, but that's extremely important to me. That well, I'm hot, I'm thirsty, I'm ready to go, I'm tired. Everybody is dealing with that. When it becomes more about, we tired, then it's like, well, let's do what we got to do so we can all get something to drink. It's just a different way of thinking. And for me, man, students who are not willing to do that, I just always kind of tell them, I feel very strongly, this just may not be the band for you. And that's okay. If you are not willing to kind of buy into that mindset, or buy into being accountable, being your brother's keeper, this band may not be for you, because we preach all the time very strongly, man. When you win or you lose, it's either the band won or the band lost. The band did good or the band didn't do good. Somebody mess up on the field show, they don't know that person's name. They don't know who they are. They don't say clarinet player that's in squad 6 on the second row. They say the band messed up.
Exactly.
Right? And so it's very important when you talk about some sport like band, that you erase I as much as you can and you make it about the group. For me, if kids are willing to do that, I really don't care about your playing level, because I really just believe you're going to do what's necessary to make yourself valuable to the group, right? And if you're not doing that, then you're probably more about just you and not about the group. And so for me, that's what I'm looking for in a student.
Okay. Switching back to Zach, what's the best piece of advice you can give an up-and-coming band director?
Up-and-coming band director, I haven't been in the game that long, but just over the 3 years, I would say be humble, be open to advice, use your resources, and, take it a day at a time. You're not going to build your band overnight. Your band is not going to sound like Southern, try to build something that that you would be proud of, not just to say that you have a band, or my band is better than yours, or my band is louder than yours, because there's so much that goes into building a band other than just playing the top 100 on the chart. Right. You just want to make sure that that you use your resources. People are here to help you. Don't be afraid to ask. People are always here to give you advice on whatever it is that it may be. Somebody has advice about something that you're dealing with. Somebody's been through something that you've been through. So, feel free to ask. If they don't know, somebody else will know. So I would most definitely say use your resources, be humble, and just stay in your lane. Do what you got to do to get your job done, to perfect your product, but don't, step into somebody else's lane or try to do something out of the ordinary that that you wouldn't do. It can cost you your job in the end, and it costs you way more than that, depending on, if it was on social media or the way social media is these days. It could cost you a future job as well. Right. So you just don't want to do anything out of the ordinary. Keep your head on straight, be humble, listen to others, but make sure that you're getting your job done at the same time.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, same question. What piece of advice would you give an up-and-coming band director?
Man, I'm gonna hit you with 2 quick Bible verses, man. Despise not the day of small beginnings. I think a lot of time, like I said, I went through this myself as a band director coming out of school. you have a picture built up of what you want your band to look and sound like, and you have these fantasies in your mind of how that's going to come about. And a lot of time, the reality of your first job is probably not going to be that. That's just the reality. It doesn't mean that it can't become that, but when you first get in there, it's going to probably be some work to do. If a school is hiring a first year, no experienced band director, it's not because they got a band that's ready to go as soon as you drop the baton. That means that band needs some work, right? And I think a lot of times, we don't really put that together as soon as we come out of school. So don't be afraid of, having to do the work and build your program. Don't be the kind of person where as soon as something is not going your way one place, you jump to another school. Then it's not going your way, then you jump to another school, because that's going to hurt you in several ways. The next thing I say is only a fool despises wise counsel. And like Zach said, you got the benefit of having people who have already had to go through what you're getting ready to go through. And I think with this, a lot of times people let their egos, come into play. And ego is a necessary thing, but it can also hurt you. You need ego to make some of our band programs work, right? If you don't got an ego that says, I'm going to get it done by any means necessary, and some of the band programs where you don't got the funding, you don't have the internal politics to help your band program, if you don't have that ego already within you, you're not going to make that program work. But at the same time, you don't want to have the kind of ego where you can't be told anything, you can't take direction from anybody, you can't take criticism, because then you're going to find yourself being on no man's land, and you really don't want that to happen.
It's gonna be okay.
Right, and I say this all the time, man. When you just look at HBCU bands or black high school bands or whatever you want to call them, minority high school bands, it's very easy to get the misconception that it's a lot of us, and it's just not. When you look at don't miss the forest for the trees. When you back out and you look at band directors as a whole in the United States, it ain't that many of them.
Right.
And then beyond that, the schools that will cater to what we have to offer in terms of our marching bands all the time, those are even fewer, right? You don't have many schools that want a traditional marching band. So those opportunities are far and few between sometimes. So you don't want to get this reputation of being somebody who is hard to work with or who can't take direction. So again, don't be a fool and despise wise counsel. A smart man will learn from his mistakes. A wise man will learn from the mistakes of others. And so you always want to kind of err on the side of being a wise man. Be accountable for your product. I've said that before, and what I mean by that is you are not going to get better as a band director if you cannot, accept what you do well and what you don't do well. And you have to start trying to eliminate those things that you don't do well. And that goes for everybody. There's no band director who does everything perfect. All of us have stuff to work on. I've been in 10 years and there's still a lot of stuff I'm still trying to work on, right? And so you want to try to pinpoint what those things are, be accountable to yourself and fix them. Reassess your methods yearly. Early new band directors, figure out what's working, what's not working. The first job, this is so important to me. Do your research and ask a lot of questions when you go on these first interviews. I think a lot of people do not realize how much your first maybe 2 to 5 years as a band director can really kind of set your outlook for the rest of your career. And what I mean by that is, let's say you get out of school, and I know this because I went through this. You get out of school, so you broke 9 times out of 10, right? You ain't got no money. You're so excited to finally be out of school, you ready to just kind of bite at the first offer that comes. And the prospect of getting paid is just, is very enticing. But like I said, again, a lot of times the schools that are hunting you down, first year band director, no experience, a lot of times those schools are probably not, set up to succeed. So you want to be selective when you take your first job, because you don't want to be somebody who is maybe, you capable of being a great band director, but you choose a job that's just not designed for you to succeed, right? And this is the thing, man. Sometimes you get in these positions where it doesn't matter what you do, you always gonna be limited by existential factors. That might be money, that might be administration, that might be a school board, that might be the parents, that might be the kids themselves, right? So you don't want to put yourself in that situation where, you know, you're not able to grow that band product, or you're not able to have a good showing. Because now when you go and look for another job for something that's better, they're going to say, well, hold on, you were at the school 2 years and I don't see any kind of progress that you made, right? And some of that may not be your fault, but you put yourself in a position where, you know, you went somewhere where you couldn't grow your crop. And so that's important. I always tell people that be a teacher first, young band director. Be a teacher first. Don't worry about social media. It's, again, put your head down and work. If you really producing, once you're producing, people will start to recognize you on their own. Be a teacher first. Me and Mr. Taylor talk about this all the time. We call it being a band head band director. You know, you don't want to be a band head band director where you only concerned about what the band head community got to say. Because at the end of the day, and I always tell people this, the band head community, the band head culture is great, but I ain't never got a check said band head community or band head culture, right? I never had an assessment of my skill that said band head, you know what I mean? Like those, you know, I don't want to call it the peanut gallery, but you know, you don't want to be listening to what people got to say off on Facebook, and their opinion really is nothing but that. Okay. So you want to be a teacher first. If you being a teacher first, all that other stuff will come. It'll fall in line. If you make that your first priority to make sure that your students are proficient musicians, that they disciplined musicians, that they have a respect for the craft, everything else will fall in line. They'll get noticed. You'll get the adulation you want. Sometimes they might come with pay increase. All that other stuff will fall in line. So just be a teacher first. And then this is the last one for me. I know I'm probably saying a lot on this subject.
Oh no, man, you're fine. You're fine.
The last one, take care of your physical and your mental health. And I say that because this is a taxing job, man. Being a band director is a job that will drain you, and it will take everything from you if you let it. To be a band director, man, you have to have the ability to have a big heart and to push past your own physical limits sometimes in terms of stamina. And we do it, all the time. But there's only so much you can give before you don't have nothing left, right? And with your physical, which, man, I went through a physical crisis this past school year where we were in a state of turnover. We were going through this transition between me becoming a new head band director, our former head band director going into administration, and then we were trying to get one of our new assistants, you know, through the hiring process. And so what that meant was for like that last 2, 3 weeks of band camp, you know, it was just me and one other band director. The other band director is a great guy, Larry Oliver, hard worker, who was only a second year, you know, so some stuff he's still picking up, only a second year at the high school, so it's still some stuff he was picking up about the process. And I was kind of burning the candle at both ends, and that caught up with me. You know, I woke up one day and I was sweating and I had chills, but it was like 90-something degrees outside. And I got sick. I ended up in the hospital, and they put me down for 10 days. And I found out, you know, I found out I was dehydrated. I was severely dehydrated, and I had some other stuff going on. But you got to make sure you take care of your physical health, and then your mental health, man. When you're a band director, you're gonna wear a lot of hats. You're gonna wear the hat of musician, of conductor, of arranger, of drill writer. But then, you know, when you're young, you coming into the game, you may not realize there's other hats that you're gonna have to put on that you never thought about. Counselor, financier, you know, you're gonna have to learn how to balance some budgets, how to fill out some PO. I remember like when somebody first told me something about filling out a PO, I said, what? You know, I didn't know what that was. I had never balanced a budget before I had become a band director. You know, I had never balanced a bank account, and now I'm being given thousands of dollars where I got to figure out how to make that work for the year, and not just make it work, but keep up with it. You know, you're gonna wear all of these different hats, and you are a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? For some of these kids, you like a father figure. You might be the only adult that they feel like they can talk to. And you want to make yourself available for that. That's something I always try and make sure if anybody comes and tell me, Miss Frazier, I need to talk to you, I try to make a habit to drop everything right there. What do you need? Come on and talk to them, right? Because you don't want to invalidate a kid that's going through something and make them feel like you don't got the time to hear what they got to say.
Right.
That gets heavy, right? That gets heavy. And you counseling kids through, I mean, I've dealt with kids who are clothing insecure, food insecure, have issues at home with maybe domestic abuse, homelessness. That stuff takes a lot out of you. When you are trying to stand in the gap for dozens of people at one time, and you got your own life too.
Right.
So if you taking on other people's problems and you got your own problems too, it takes a lot out of you. So it's important, new band directors as you coming in, have an outlet, whether that's just a hobby that you can do where you can decompress, somebody you can talk to. For me, that person is my wife. When it's weighing on me, now it's time for me to talk to her. If you need to get counseling, do that. Because I guarantee you, man, if you don't let some of this stuff out and this stuff, when you're trying to be there for those kids, that can be a heavy burden sometimes. And if you don't got an outlet for that, it can tear you up. And you don't want to burn yourself out like that. So it's very important that you take care of your physical and mental health. I'm really sorry I took that long talking about all that.
Oh, no, man, you fine.
All those things, all those things for me are very important because that stuff, some of that stuff is stuff I wish I would have known, coming into being a band director.
Okay. So we have a question for both of you guys from all the guys at Show Style Talk. They want to know, do you see yourself going to the collegiate level one day?
Most definitely. It's a little bit more than a thought. I can see myself moving up to the collegiate level. I think all band directors at some point, may want to move up some kind of way. Like Alex said earlier, each level has its own issues, its own troubles and things like that. So you got to take that into consideration moving up to you might be leaving one set, moving to the next set, are you ready for this? But most definitely I do see myself moving up to the collegiate level, not just to sit back and arrange and things like that. That's fun. That's the extra stuff. You get to do whatever you get to do with your program, but you really want to look at it as more as a promotion, another challenge to take on, versus then just trying to sit back and have fun, because it's still a job at the end of the day. But most definitely, I do see myself in the near future, possibly moving up. Not to say that I don't like, where I am teaching high school, teaching middle school, but just to give it a little extra push, and to say that I love it as much as I do, I wouldn't mind going to the next level and see what I could accomplish from there.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, do you see yourself going to the collegiate level?
I'll give you 100% honest answer. I really don't know. I could tell you I'm 33 now. If you would have asked me at 23, I would have told you 100% yes. I could have gave you an easy answer. At 33, I gotta say I don't know, and I say that because for me now, what's important to me now is that I feel fulfilled in the work. And I guess that's something that's very, very important to me. Am I feeling fulfilled in the work? Am I feeling like I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing? Am I feeling like the ends, the means meet the ends? That's a big thing for me at this point in my career. What I'll say is I'm definitely not against it. It's not something that's a strong desire of mine right now. That could change. I say that now because the longer I teach, I've learned to stop saying I never do this or I only want to do that. I've just learned to stop. I used to always tell myself, man, I never want to be a principal. And my good friend Trent Johnson, I worked with for 8 years. He used to say the same thing, man, I don't want to do that. Now he'll assist the person, and it's just because sometimes your priorities change as you get older. Priorities change, your circumstances change. Again, at 23, I was single. I didn't really have many commitments that I had to, hold to, but it's very different now. I'm married. I got a lot of commitments. I'm in several organizations. I'm a deacon at my church. I'm a Omega Psi Phi member in my chapter out here. It's harder just for me to just say, well, I'll pick up and move. But more so than anything, it would have to be a situation where I know I'm going to enjoy the work. Because for me, if I'm enjoying the work, I can work as long as necessary. If I'm not enjoying the work, I lose interest in stuff very quickly. And I always tell the band kids while I work, man, if I wasn't teaching band, I wouldn't be no teacher. I'm being honest with you. If I was teaching English or history, and it's not to say there's anything wrong with those subjects, but I know myself enough to know if it's something I truly enjoy and I enjoy the place that I am, I will work all day. And that's my day is now pretty much doing football season. I normally get home around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. If I could find that situation at the collegiate level and that same kind of peace at work, and that's a big thing for me, I enjoy getting up to go to work while I work right now. And I almost hate for some of my Memorial kids to hear that because they're going, but I can honestly say, man, I enjoy getting up to go to work. I have fun going to work while I work now. If I can recreate that maybe at the collegiate level one day when it's the right time, or if that time ever comes, then sure, I'd love to do it. But it's not something that's necessarily something that's on a bucket list right now.
Okay. Last question for you guys. Zach, I'm gonna start off with you, man. With all of this COVID-19 going on and, this social issues that's going on, with the, killings of unarmed Black men, what are some encouraging words would you like to give to your band students, man? Not just the class of 2020, but just your band students in general.
To keep pushing, stay aware, stay safe, and take this time, to really reflect on what's going on, to stay in the know, and to really just stay in the present. Don't rush too far ahead into what's to come. With what's to come, it'll come when it's supposed to. I've learned that over just years of growing, not just of being a band director, but everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. As long as you're at the right place, right time with the right equipment, ready to concentrate. Excessive walking and talking makes concentration not impossible, but difficult. But just stay in your zone and be ready to work when the time comes. We may not know exactly what the year has to hold for right now with all the different policies and things that are being put in place. But you just got to be ready to get up and go at a given moment and just stay in the right mindset, relax for now, but be ready to work when the time comes.
Okay. Mr. Frazier, any encouraging words?
What I would just tell anybody is, right now, try to keep things in perspective. I think that's one thing I'm trying to do with my band students is have them keep things in perspective. And the perspective for me is, as much as I want to get back to doing what we do the way that we do it and being able to go full speed, what's most important to me right now is everybody's health. Because maybe a football season, or maybe, band practices, maybe we could make up. Certain events, maybe we could make up. You can't make up, your health. And what scares a lot of people with this COVID stuff is that, even the people who are surviving, some of them have long-term effects. And I could not live with the idea that I was putting it in my band students in a position where, they not being safe, or I'm not putting their health first. So first thing I would say to band students, especially my band students, is know that when we, or if we have to make decisions to delay practices or anything like that, it's not because we don't want to get back to work, because my band kids know at this point I'm bored. I've been bored for a while. But it's really just to make sure that they have the full benefit of being safe. Beyond that, what I'll say is this will be over one day. At some point, this is going to be over, and we're going to resume doing what we do the way that we do it. And on that day, I, will gladly hug everybody. And what's making this hard, man, is it takes away some of the stuff that makes band great. You know, that
Right.
interaction,
Mm-hmm.
that being
Close
able
contact.
to get together. Right. You know, when you are in a band hall and you hear a piece come together, you know, there is nothing really like that. Whether it be marching band, concert band, whatever. When you hear a song really starting to come together, you kind of have that group synergy of like, oh man, yeah, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's hard you can't really duplicate that through Zoom. You know, you can't
Mm-hmm.
duplicate that through live sessions. And so I understand. So right now it's really about making the best out of not the best situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I tell students and band directors everywhere is, you know, be safe, be patient, be humble during this time, and be looking forward to the time that this is over. You know, what I'm trying to do right now is prepare as if this will be over, but making plans in case it's not. You know, that's really my mindset right now. I'm kind of preparing two different things right now. If this is over, I got my stuff ready to go to get, you know, in full swing if we can do it safely. If it's not, then it's you know, I want to do everything I can to keep our band students encouraged and keep them engaged and keep them still hungry for what we have coming in the future. So more than anything, man, I hope that everybody stays safe during this time.
All right. And fellas, it was a great interview, man. You know, this time I got it right, you know. This time. And I appreciate you guys, man. You know, stay safe, keep doing what you're doing. You know, we as cameramen appreciate what you guys do. You know, it's not an easy job, you know, just from us being behind the camera and seeing the stuff that you guys do, you know, I can only imagine what y'all have to do, you know, inside the band room where people don't really get to see. So, you know, I just want to, you know, tip my head out to you guys and say, you know, thanks, man. Keep doing a good job, keeping these kids, you know, out of trouble, giving them something positive to look into. So that's really big for me, man.
And thank you. I want to thank you. I told you this the other night, and I want to make sure everybody here when I say it. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and you know, all the media teams. But it's such a huge thing for the band kids and for me. You know, when we get to go to a competition, you know, especially out of state, and we get to see those clips up the next day, that is something you know, that I really can't put a price on in terms of the value. So thank you.
Zach,
yeah, man, most definitely. Thank you, man, for all you're doing. Just being able to showcase my kids way out here where they're at. You know, they enjoy seeing it. And it gives us a chance to be able to kind of look back and go back and critique some things because, you know, we don't always have the luxury of everybody being able to record at any time. So
future. All right. I appreciate that. Once again, man, you guys stay safe and hopefully if there's a football season, you know, I'll try to get to both of you all and yeah, man, you guys just stay safe.
All right, you do the same, man.
All right, man.
all right.